Hey everyone, welcome back to another Best Top 10 video. While you're at it, make sure to subscribe to our channel for some cool content every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. In this video, I'm going to show you the most dangerous prison inmates from around the world. The word inmates, prisoners, or prison always creates a sense of danger in us thanks to all the stories we read and the movies we watch. But just as you see in movies, prisons become very scary thanks to their inmates. Just picture sharing a cell with Hannibal Lecter, or those angry inmates from Prison Break. Of course, there are sadly many people who may end up behind bars for small crimes. But today, we're going to focus on the big bad wolves of the criminal world who ended up behind bars in one form or another. So watch all the way and tell us in the comment section below who is your biggest nightmare. Number 1. The Eyeball Man. This guy, so-called Jason Barnum, was arrested on 1 count of attempted murder in the 1st degree and 2 counts of assault in the 3rd degree, including the shooting at a police officer. Not only is he charged with some dangerous crimes, he also has one of the scariest faces around thanks to his many tattoos, including a black tattooed eyeball, which earned him his nickname and got him all the media attention. He had admitted to robbing homes and stealing cars to fund his heroin addiction. And now, lucky for us, unlucky for him, he's charged with 22 years in prison. Good luck to whoever wakes up to that face. Number 2. The Underwear Strangler. What a nickname that is. Johan Unterweger was an Australian serial killer turned journalist. He then became a minor celebrity after being convicted of 1 murder in 1974 when he was released early as part of a rehabilitation program, which led to many more murders after his release. After the release, he had a traveling approach to murder with victims in multiple countries such as Germany, America, and much more thanks to his job as a criminal journalist. Ironic. His signature was strangling his victims, who were all women working in red light areas with their bra. However, Underweger was diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder and he committed suicide by hanging after facing a conviction for several murders, which by Australian law makes him not guilty. Number 3. The Red Ripper. No, not this Ripper, but Andrei Chikatilo the Ripper, who was the Russian version of the Jack the Ripper. He was a Soviet serial killer who sexually assaulted, murdered, and mutilated at least 52 women and children between 1978 and 1990 in Russia, Ukraine, and Uzbekistan. Andrei confessed to 56 murders. His first victim was a 9-year-old girl named Yelena, who he attempted to rape. According to evidence, when the girl struggled, he choked her and stabbed her 3 times in the abdomen, ejaculating while stabbing the child. Now that's disgusting, man. Anyway, initially he was convicted and sentenced to death for 52 of these murders. But a year later, the Supreme Court of Russia ruled that there was insufficient evidence of his guilt in 9 of these murders. He was eventually executed in February 1994. Number 4. Typhoid Mary. Mary Malone was an Irish cook believed to have infected 51 people, 3 of whom died with typhoid fever, and the first person in the United States identified as an asymptomatic carrier of the disease. Despite noticing how many people at her work are getting sick, she persisted in working as a cook. Initially, the New York City health inspector determined she was a carrier. She was arrested as a public health threat and put into self-quarantine. Under questioning, she admitted that she almost never washed her hands. After being released from her first quarantine, she eventually went back to being a cook despite orders not to, under the name Mary Brown, and started yet another outbreak and was eventually arrested again. She was asked to remove her gallbladder to decrease her risk of transmission, but she refused both times. Malin remained in quarantine for the remainder of her life, just over 23 years. Number 5. The Real Pennywise. Johnny Wayne Gacy was an American serial killer and sex offender known as the Killer Clown who assaulted and murdered at least 33 young men and boys. Despite having a job as a handyman, he had a regular gig at children's hospitals and charitable events as Pogo the Clown or Patches the Clown. According to Gacy himself, all his murders were committed inside his house, where he would typically lure a victim, trap him into wearing handcuffs, then rape and torture his captive before killing him by either asphyxiation or strangulation. his conviction of 33 murders was the largest number charged to one individual in the United States at the time. Gacy was sentenced to death on March 13, 1980 and was executed by lethal injection. Number 6. The Monster. Eileen Wuornos was an American serial killer and prostitute who murdered 7 men in Florida between 1989 and 1990 by shooting them at point-blank range. When she was arrested, she claimed that her victims had either raped or attempted to rape her while she was servicing them, and that they were all in self-defense. She was sentenced to death for 6 of the murders. In a petition to the Florida Supreme Court to dismiss her legal counsel and end all pending appeals, she wrote, "I killed those men, robbed them as cold as ice, and I'd do it again too. There's no chance in keeping me alive or anything, because I'd kill again." It was her crazy behavior that earned lots of attention. She was executed by lethal injection in 2002. The 2003 film Monster was based on Wuornos' story from childhood until her first murder conviction, with Charlize Theron as Eileen, a performance that earned Theron an Oscar for Best Actress. Number 7. The Lobster Boy. Grady Franklin Stiles Jr. was an American freak show performer. He had a deformity caused by a genetic condition called ectrodactyly, where the fingers and toes are fused together in claw-like extremities, and so Stiles performed under the stage name Lobster Boy. He also developed substantial upper body strength as he couldn't walk, when combined with his bad temper and alcoholism made him dangerous to others. In 1978, Stiles shot and killed his oldest daughter's fiancé on the eve of their wedding, for which he was brought to trial. He then openly confessed to killing the man and was convicted of third-degree murder. But he was not sent to prison, as no state institution was equipped to care for an inmate with his conditions, and so he was instead sentenced to house arrest and 15 years probation. Number 8. BTK. This guy's motives were all about fame, as it turns out to be. Dennis Lin is an American serial killer who gave himself the name BTK for bind, torture, and kill between 1974 and 1991. Rader killed 10 people and sent taunting letters to police and newspaper describing the details of his crimes. After a decade-long break from his crimes, Dennis resumed sending letters in 2004, leading to his 2005 arrest and guilty plea. He demanded media attention in his second letter, and it was finally announced that Wichita had a serial killer at large. However, he's currently serving 10 consecutive life sentences in Kansas. That's some other level of obsession with fame. Number 9. Game show contestants. Rodney James Alcala is an American rapist and serial killer who was convicted of 5 murders and 2 homicides between 1977 and 1979. However, his true victim count remains unknown and could be much higher. He compiled a collection of more than 1,000 photographs of women and teenage girls, mostly in sexually explicit poses. Alcala gained the name The Dating Game Killer because of his 1978 appearance on the television show The Dating Game during his murder spree. Prosecutors have said that Alcala toyed with his victims, strangling them until they lost consciousness, then waiting until they were conscious again, sometimes repeating this process several times before finally killing them. One detective described Alcala as a killing machine. He was sentenced to death in California for the murders and received an additional sentence of 25 years to life for the 2 homicides. Number 10. Terry Nichols. Terry Nichols is an American bomber charged with hundreds of murders. He became buddies with his partner in crime, Timothy McVeigh, in the military during his short 1-year service before asking for a discharge. That's where the two plotted against the government. They killed 168 people with an explosive bomb in 1995. Terry Nichols turned himself in to the authorities not too long after the attack and was sentenced to lifetime imprisonment, while his buddy on the other hand, Timothy, was captured and given the death sentence. He actually set a Guinness World Record for the amount of life sentences he was charged with. They charged him with 161 life terms of prison. Those stories sure give you chills. This just goes to show how people of all walks of life can have terrible endings. Next time you go out, take extra care and don't forget to comment below which terrified you the most, and hit that like and subscribe button. Take care.